I need to pause for the 4-rotor for just a second to help film the cool stuff we're doing very quickly to bring this back to life.
Ran the
thick-ass power cord all the way down there to the back bin. Yep. So we got both power and ground right there. They're both single-aught, thick-ass welding cable, basically. This is the new wire. And that is clearly got more copper in it, but you'll also notice it has more strands of copper. That's called welding cable. And welding cable, when you're using it appropriately in a car, kicks ass. Not only that, this is just smaller cable in diameter. So we can send more amps through that wire without it heating up, or voltage loss more particularly. And the reason that matters more on the 3-rotor than the 4-rotor is because of the insane fuel system in the back of the car. This is not brushless, this is brushed. So we've got one pump coming from down there, and then 3 Hellcat pumps sitting in the thing here. That's about up to 80 amps of power being used in the back. So it's nice to have the battery sending as much clean amount of power to the front and to the back. So we've got that ready to go. We don't have a starter to terminate this cable, but that's okay. What we're gonna do now is put the lower intake manifold on, but before we do that, we're gonna put these. These are the fuel rails from Full Function Engineering. These guys are longtime friends of mine, and they make some quality products. So you can actually see their brands right there. I've been a big supporter of them, and they've been a big supporter of me as well. They got these all made, which I needed my primary rail. You can see there's my old secondary one, and my old secondary one, but somebody stole my other one. So let's go ahead and crack that little guy open. Yeah, this is actually an improvement, a slight improvement from the previous one, because my previous one didn't have this chamfered machined edge, so it's just a little bit less material. Than, you know, it's aluminum, so it doesn't weigh much anyway, but I love that they always improve. So they included that, and they changed these a step up too, but I do have these from the previous setup from them already, so we're good there, but we could swap to these. And then these are the pedestals. I think these are for the secondary rail. So you can see there's the blue things already in this.
Yeah.
So the pedestals go on the primary. So let's go ahead and set that on the ground, and let's get this primary rail installed. So let's take these out. And this little guy, take just a little dab of grease. Boop. And you're trying to kind of put your finger into it. Yeah, that should be good. Go into each one of those. You got it. So go ahead and put that rail on like you're going to. Yep. And you notice we're gonna need one tower thing here and then one on this one here. So the bolt goes all the way through it. So that should actually pop all the way off. So
take these off.
Well, just set them in there gently for the moment. I'm going to clean up the threads on this one because whoever powder coated this fucked up the threads. So I'm going to have Chris tap this. Go ahead and rotate it. And so it should actually start to feed the threads fine. Yeah. But now I'm going to still do it by hand just to make sure we're on. Gently do a half turn in, quarter turn back. Just a little bit back. And then go further forward. Pop those off. Yeah, perfect. Again, it's just so that way the O-ring doesn't get caught up, and then you pinch it, or whatever the case is. It's a 3-rotor. Can handle it. What's really neat, I noticed this on the full function kit, there's a lip on the top of these little stands, and that corresponds to the rail itself. Okay, so your goal is to gently suggest, and this is one of the reasons that we used the grease, is to put the fuel rail onto the top of the injectors. Because those tend to be tighter. Yep. So you can see how easy those are. Those aren't the pressure side. The side that you're putting on is the pressure side. So if your base fuel pressure is 48 psi and you go 40 psi on your engine, oh, don't worry about it. You're talking 70 to 80 psi in that fuel rail minimum. Okay. Perfect. Go ahead and set it in. Yep. Oh, there we go. And that's really all that's required. The top ones are the harder ones. There you go. It's all aluminum, so you don't go too far. The one thing I'm missing, easy to fix, and I think this is 8 ORB. It's AN line, so basically what you see right there, it takes the O-ring boss, and then turns it into an AN fitting. So it's finally time for the lower intake manifold, and this might not be the last time we install it. Let's go ahead and put it on there. Yep. And so then with there, we'll get that. Yep, you're hooking that in, and then there. And then go ahead and do that one right there. Yep.
Cool.
we'll go ahead and tighten those in a little bit more. Now it's time for the blue towel. The best way to do it is kind of like where you push the center in. Okay, so we now have that. I'm going to run 1700 square, so it'll be 6 1700s to run the 85. That is not going to hit our power goals, but it's still going to make a ton of power. So grab that secondary rail. See the steel hat or aluminum hat on the top of the injector? The secondary rails are taller. The injector as a whole is only this big. It's a very small injector, and part of it already sits in the bottom down there. So we need a taller hat for that, and that's what these purple hats are for. So this is one of the injectors already set up for that. What I want you to do is take some of the grease and grease both sides of the O-rings on that, and go ahead and set them into the rail. So that's the sprayer side, but if the top side gets clogged, well, you're not spraying anything. So we're going to protect that side by putting it into the fuel rail, and then put that whole assembly into the lower intake manifold. We'll put a little bit of grease on both of these top O-rings. Okay, so we'll go ahead and put that into the rail. Okay, so now we have the whole rail ready to party. The fuel rail's in place. We're going to see how much of our old stuff we can use. There's the fuel pressure regulator. We'll be certainly using that, but this hose no longer matters. This line will now get a fitting and it'll plug into the bottom of that. This is the fuel line in, and this actually plugs into the back of that rail right there. And then we're going to have a little loop of a hose that goes from here down to there. And then one of the lines in your hand, I think the shorter one, goes from the back of that smaller rail over to here. But really simple fuel system. Supply line in, goes to secondary rail goes to the primary rail goes then to the fuel pressure stop gate, the regulator, and then back through this hose back to the car. Yeah. This is not E85 compatible, but I'm kind of curious to see what happens when it isn't. So that's the feed line. We'll end up making another little loop line from that rail to that rail. Here's what we're going to do now. We have the slave cylinder right there. We're going to go ahead and put that onto the throwout bearing and test the clutch. So we'll put a second bolt in there and then we'll push the clutch in and see what happens. So we're going to use our trusty, actually I bought this myself before the Valvoline sponsored me, but we got some trusty Valvoline brake fluid. Oh, stop. That's why we don't have those plugged in. I guess now we know not to go fast next time. Forgot we disconnected the brake lines for this. Let's go ahead and fill that thing back up. We're going to empty it one more time before we finish working on the car, but we want to test the clutch. I'm going to open this valve up. So go ahead and press in and hold in. Now let go. Go ahead and press in. Okay, let go. After a little bit of bleeding, both myself and the car, go ahead and hit it. And there we go. We've got clutch engagement. One more thing I wanted to do for the end of the night with the 3-rotor was fix the front cover setup. Okay, so we're going to need a metric piece from that size to whatever this is, 10. Ideally, this would actually have threaded in, and then this would plug in on there. That's the hot oil coming from the bottom. Goes through the stock R1 oil cooler, goes across, goes to the other stock R1 oil cooler, and then that's where it comes into this line that's been leaking in the garage for months. This actually feeds the front bearing. This one would ultimately go here. We need a third one to go to the rear rotor. So this will go into the back there. We're missing one of the lines because one of these V's off into 2 lines and then goes and feeds both of these. But really it's just 3 lines. Front bearing, center bearing, and then rear bearing and pressure control back there. We jumped right into it. As soon as Chris got here, we were just talking about this and he's already hauling ass. He's hooking up the diffuser to the 2 straps on the gas tank. There's 2 bolts on them. We also set this in place right here. The whole reason he's doing the diffuser is so that way we can actually put the exhaust on fully, because the diffuser goes up above it. But then we can put the downpipe on, we can put the rest of the exhaust on and get that out of the way. We'll probably take the downpipe back off, oddly enough, because we have to put the rest of the old exhaust manifold back on, the screamer pipe, all that, because everything's just loose in there for the moment. it's neat because this is something I've done probably 100 times, and he gets to do it for the first time. It excites me because it reminds me how much fun this process actually really is. It finally comes time for us to put together the exhaust system. It's really going to make this car look like it's complete. It's not close, but it is ready for boost. Since we ended up using 2 of these on the rotary Corvette, this is the 3rd one from the 3-rotor. And you can actually see there's right there the manifold style right there. I needed 2 more, and I'll tell you what, guys, these things are expensive as hell. They're like $80 a piece. They're Cosmo exhaust gaskets. I'm sure as hell going to reuse them. I don't care. And you can actually use this cup or RTV to really seal it home. That's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to clean this one off. These 2 are ready to go. And then this goes on for the final time. So this is the manifold that Turbo made for me a couple years ago, and we used with the 4202 to make 767 horsepower. It still looks in almost perfect condition. He used real thick wall stuff, so it's not cracking. But we're going to go ahead and scrape the last of this off, put some new Ultra Copper back on, clean this one off, and line them all up and put them back on the exhaust. I'm obsessed with using razor blades. I don't know why. It's nice to use it and then throw it out. You're not trashing a cutting surface that you care about. This is the last time this car will run gasoline. This is actually a lot of buildup from all the race gas. It's no longer that. It's now going to be E85. Just clean off this excess here. That way it doesn't create exhaust leaks. And we're going to make sure this side goes back onto this side of the exhaust. Okay, that should do it. My Valvoline, especially, I love this stuff more than people understand. I'm going to use it to clean this off. To really get all those gums and residues off. I mean, you work so hard to get boost to this point, might as well not let it escape out the side. Same thing to this. Now I do have Old Faithful. We're gonna hit all 3 of these. My hands are gonna get dirty for this. Wow, look at that, that's different. They've changed them. They're getting cheap. Look at that. There's almost no meat on the side of that. That's compare and contrast right there. I don't mind paying more if I'm getting more, but when you charge more and then make it smaller, that drives me nuts about current culture. Economics say that you should charge more and make more and give me less, but please, I'm willing to pay for the good things, not this half-assed smaller version.
It's for weight reduction.
It is weight reduction and wallet reduction. Chris, it's about your time to shine. This side goes to the engine. And you put them in right too, because the fatter side does go on the bottom, so good job there. I forgot to tell you that.
Oh, really? Cool.
I already went and did the first 2. This is very straightforward process. There's no magic to what I'm doing here. I am sure you could use way less. I don't know who, it won't be me, that proves that, but I'm sure you could use less. These are really badass nuts meant for this setup, but these are the special ones with more thread. They cost a lot of money. I don't know why. I do know why, because they can charge it. Now that we got the exhaust manifold on, it is now time to seal on the turbo. So we're gonna still use this old beat to crap flange. I don't even know what sheet metal. We'll clean up the bottom side, same thing. More orange stuff on both sides, and then turbo goes on, and then we're putting the downpipe on. That makes it look so much like a car. I've had this car with its previous turbos leak from right here, and I thought it was downpipe. I thought it was so many other things. Missed the one simple thing it could be. So this I do actually want to cake it on. This is like when you put an oil pan on the 20B. The oil pan is so warped. Chris, if you want to grab the crown jewel, yep. I'm putting this on. Everything else looks good here. There we go. So I have the center and all this loose so the turbo can rotate. Yeah, you nailed it. Chris pointed something out to me when we were picking this up. Spider home. No bueno. Not on my watch. This is remnants of this car being the Black Widow RX-7. As soon as we go to hit the wastegate, we're going to get rid of the last of them. plop this on. Only because this is hard to get to once you've got the downpipe on. Normally I think these things are tacky, but this is a special car. It still has its old marks from hitting that spot right there. We'll have to tighten these up. Those are just 10 mil bolts, and we'll have to do the wiring for this, but that's easy as well. Chris, it's time for the downpipe. One of my favorite things about this car is the way it looks like a nuclear reactor. It sucks air in, and it doesn't do this, but I think it does. It goes straight through, makes this like nuclear turbine jet thing.
Particle accelerator.
Yeah, thank you. Particle accelerator. This V-band has lived a long, torturous life. And it's still got some life in it. But, yeah, there you go. Oh my god, that looks so sick. So we're gonna continue tightening all of this up, but everything's in place and functionally in place. This is gonna be one nasty, nasty turbo 3-rotor.